evening, everybody. We are back to Big Man on Campus, and we are live, Week 6, college football preview. My name is Jeff. They call me the Big Man on Campus here, as always, with my co-host, Ryan D'Amico. And Ryan, it's Week 6. We got a hurricane on the horizon on the East Coast, but we're marching on and ready to go for another big and bad week of college football. How you doing today, buddy?
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, we are. We're prepping for – looks like we're not going to get a lot of it, but one thing to make the listeners aware, obviously, is that's something the East Coast is going to get hit. So games that you want to get involved with, obviously pay attention to that weather report. But, yeah, I'm excited. There's some pretty good matchups, Jeff. Some matchups, the marquee matchups, some other lesser-known games that obviously we'll talk about that we always do week to week. So looking forward to get it started here, Jeff. Got a good guest on tonight. Someone I haven't, I don't believe, talked to yet. Talked to him a little bit earlier tonight, but as far as on the show, I haven't. I don't think interacted with him.
I don't think you have, and you make a really good point, Ryan. Make sure when you do cap your games, you do obviously add into the fact that there may be some weather issues. So definitely keep that abreast. We'll kind of break it all down as we go forward here. Yeah, Ryan, I don't think you've ever talked to Ian Cameron. He's from sportsmember.com. He's come on a lot of the baseball shows. Ian Cameron, how you doing tonight, buddy? Good to have you back on.
It is great to be back and great to talk college football. One of my passions, and big card this week. Looking forward to breaking it down. Thankfully, this hurricane ain't hitting me here in Canada, so I'm going to be free of any worry. But hopefully, in all seriousness, to people affected by this, hopefully you get out of this thing this weekend safe and sound and can move on and get things, keep things on the right frame of mind, I guess you could say, moving forward.
I will say this: if a hurricane ever did hit you, that would be pretty unbelievable.
That'd be some end of the world shit.
Yes, but yes, I don't think we'll be hit here either in the Philadelphia area. So I think we're safe, but it could affect us. Remember last year, Ryan? There was a hurricane last year.
Yeah, Joaquin.
Yeah, right. And I remember that Clemson Notre Dame was pretty affected by it.
Yes.
We actually have a little football here going on right now, Ryan.
Yep.
Wednesday night football. The Sun Belt, if you will, is back, and you had Georgia Southern and Arkansas State in a little bit of a battle right now. But let's jump into it, Ryan, and Ian, let's attack the card here. Obviously, we will mix in, Ryan, our best bets of the week. We'll also take a look at listener games, which we've all been made privy to beforehand. We're going to start Friday night, and again, thank you to all the listeners out there, as always, for listening. If you're out there, please retweet, favorite the show, and let us know you're out there listening by communicating on the chat box, which is live right in front of us. Donnie Rightside, how you doing? Shoddy K, what's happening? Everyone else out there, what's going on? And all the listeners that Ian brought.
Yes,
thank you for listening. Sure. Hopefully we can have you on a regular basis. Let's jump into it, guys. Friday night Eastern, 7:30. You got the Clemson Tigers laying 17 at Boston College. Over-under is 43. Clemson off the big win against Louisville, which, obviously one of the marquee games last week, and it lived up to the billing, guys. It was a great football game. A lot of, lead changes and plays at the end. It was just a great game nonetheless. But we talked about it, Ryan. That's the game that Clemson wins. They win those kind of games. Look, I think before that game, a lot was kind of made. Where's this Clemson offense? Where are the big plays? Where's the lockdown defense? You saw it a little bit against Georgia Tech. The lockdown defense wasn't really there against Louisville, but I think we can all agree this is a really good defense from Clemson. I think BC will struggle to score points. Boston College is improved offensively. Patrick Tolles is an upgrade from everything they had in the past. Again, they are a bad offensive team, only scoring about 23 points per game. They're only allowing 17, though, but they haven't faced an offense quite this good, Ryan. Possible letdown for Clemson here. This is a game sent in by a listener. I don't remember who it was, but one thing I can say, and I will say, a lot of under trends in these games between these two. The only thing I would say here, maybe Clemson kind of comes out here and kind of wants to keep keep the winning mojo going and kind of really lay into BC. I have a hard time backing Boston College ever, usually. I don't have much in this game. I would probably lay it with Clemson here, but I'm not really in love with it, especially on the road after that win. Ian Cameron, any thoughts on this game?
From a spot perspective, I can only look to Boston College here. This is an absolutely dreadful spot for Clemson. We're talking about off that huge, and it was a physical, intense football game that came down to the wire. We talked about, we look at what Clemson had to do really to claw back into that game. Because Louisville really took control, took the lead in the third quarter. Clemson had to battle back from that point on and get that victory 42-36 and hung on at the end for the victory. So you worry about that on a short week now, traveling on the road to Chestnut Hill here against this Eagles team, an Eagles team that will bring a pretty good defense. Does Clemson have their A game in them? So from a spot perspective, there's no way I can lay 17 points. I could only look at BC. That being said, why am I not in love with the BC side? When you look at what they've done so far this season, and I know Patrick Tolles, the Kentucky transfer, to me is an upgrade, has made this offense a little bit better this season. Don't get me wrong, he has. But, Buffalo, Wagner, their last two wins, nothing to write home about. They're two meaningful results so far, impactful opponents. Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech lose to the scoreboard 66-14 in those two games combined, outgained by over 300 yards in both of those games combined. Patrick Tolles, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions in those games against Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, including a 49-0 shutout loss to Va Tech earlier this season. This is a for-real Clemson defense, and I'm just worried that if Clemson ever, steps on the throat of BC with Deshaun Watson in that offense, Boston College is one of those teams that I'm not sure has backdoor potential here if they fall behind by 3 touchdowns or more. Now, and when I look at an underdog, guys, of this size, I'd actually rather take my shot on the underdog that basically can score rather than the team that can play great defense, because I want that team that can punch in a late cheap touchdown. So here, to me, Boston College has the spot advantage, but I just don't trust them enough to pull the trigger. Yeah,
and that's a great point you make with the just no-show against Virginia Tech. They were waxed in that game. For me, I have a hard time ever backing Boston College. Like he said, they have a hard time of really backdooring a game. Mind you, a lot of like UConn last week. They did end up, if you got a bad number backdooring. Right. But Ryan, what are your thoughts here? Tolles has been better, but we watched them last week against Buffalo a little bit, and that was kind of a weird game. It was weather was definitely a problem there, and Buffalo's bad, so it's hard to really.
Tolles is an upgrade, but he's still nothing special. Only completing about 50% of his passes, 800 yards. Touchdown interception ratio 6-3. Like Ian said, they just don't have that ability to kind of get that late backdoor, because that probably will need it. It'll be an emotional spot for sure. It'll be a night game there. Clemson off the big win last night. It has all the makings of a possible letdown. But look, I would kind of want to lean to the under, but I could see Clemson kind of exploding, because the one team that BC did play, that's respectable, I guess you could say, on their schedule, would be Virginia Tech, who hung up 49 points on them. So I'm not in love with this game from really any angle, to be honest with you. But if I did have to lean, I guess I would have to lean with BC, I guess. But that's not.
I think if you listen to all three voices here, I think the sentiment here would be to stay away from this game.
Right.
I actually think there's a couple better games from a betting perspective on Friday than this one. So, I would definitely probably look to avoid.
One of those games, too, a lot of people like to do that. Oh, it's on. It involves Clemson, who's ranked in the top 5. I got to have action on it. It's one of those patented games that people like to
and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a big Boston College guy. I never really ever liked to back them. And if you guys are just joining us, we're talking with Ian Cameron from SportsMemo.com. Also, Ryan, a colleague of mine at SBRForum.com. He does his videos over there, and he's doing a great job with his pick of the week. I believe he's 4-1, if I'm correct. Hey, Ian, great call last week with South Florida over the posted total. Actually, I had South Florida in that game. That was a great call by you. South Florida's been involved with some wild games for sure. Simon, what's happening, man? Thanks for joining us. Let's move on, guys, to the next one. I think we can all agree that one's nowhere near anyone's radar. Let's go to this one. Va Tech at UNC. This one could be weather related here, so definitely keep that in mind. UNC laying 2.5 over under 59. This game's going at 3:30 Eastern. You got Va Tech, who, look, the offense is there. Gerard Evans has been great. 13 touchdowns, 970 yards. They're scoring 40 points per game. And that Bud Foster defense continues to impress. Just 18 points a game. The only thing I wonder, I mean, other than Tennessee, they really haven't played anybody worth really noting. Boston College, Liberty, Tulsa, not really much there. I will point out, guys, they actually held ECU in check, though. ECU, a good offense, held them to just 17 points. This Va Tech team will get after you if you like to pass the football. This team is really good. Pass yards against just 151 per game, and they're facing UNC team. Ryan,
real quick, Tulsa was last year. That's my fault. Tulsa was the bowl game.
It was
last
ECU
year.
instead.
Yes.
And they're facing a UNC team who we all know is very good offensively. This is kind of a conscious in style. It's good pass defense, against a really efficient UNC team. Mitch Trubisky, dark horse for the Heisman, if you ask me. This kid's been great. He's engineered 2 straight fourth-quarter comebacks.
And probably the most impressive thing, Jeff, 13 touchdowns to 0 interceptions.
And he actually leads the country in completion percentage at almost 80%. So the kid has been great. You got to wonder, though, a little bit of a hangover maybe after last week's emotional win. I saw their kicker was on Sports Center a couple times.
Yep.
They did a little
tweet segment.
Yeah, and they also did a day in the life of him. Okay. They followed him around campus, and he's the big man on campus this week.
Yeah,
I think that's what he was voted. This is a tough game in UNC, though. It's hard to back that defense. This is a tough game, man. It really is.
It is.
I'll go, though, with Trubisky and a lean. I think I like that they can spread the ball around. That offense is really good. It just asked Florida State that. It'll be interesting to see, though, if they can move the ball in this Va Tech defense. If Va Tech can ugly it up here, yeah, I think they're improved. I actually mentioned I thought Virginia Tech was a sleeper in that side of the ACC. They don't face any of the big boys, really, except for UNC. This is a big game for them. But we've noticed in the past, they're not a great road team. They're good at home, not great on the road. I would lean UNC here, but I'm not in love with this play either. Ryan, I'll start with you here. What do you think in this game?
Yeah, not in love with it, but a few things that do sway my opinion onto the UNC side. One, this is Virginia Tech's first true road game of the year. If you remember, they did play at Bristol against Tennessee, a game they got whitewashed in. So you got to throw that out there. First true road game going to Chapel Hill. Tough place to play. I mean, UNC has kind of shown that over the years. And one guy that stands out to me, now looks like Elijah Hood will play. Got dinged up last week, running back for UNC. But Ryan Switzer, what he has done over the last 2 games, I don't have the numbers in front of me precisely, but he is just lighting things up the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Switzer's really good.
He's that Wes Welker type receiver, short little white guy, just really quick in the open field. Him and Trubisky kind of have a little repertoire going right now where it's just kind of they're buddy right now. He's really finding Switzer, so he's been gashing them and just being at home. I like that. Plus the fact that it's for the first true road game for Virginia Tech. 2 things that kind of sway me leaning towards UNC, but.
You also throw in Mac Hollins, Austin Prohl. Hood is important in this game because they were not the same team in the second half without. And if I got a feeling I know Rian's going to go in this game. If Weather's involved, I would maybe look to go with Virginia Tech here because that's going to be the side you want to be on probably with Weather. Ian Cameron, what are your thoughts on UNC Va Tech?
Well, if you're a believer in Virginia Tech, you've got to believe they've got a shot to win this game. And I'm a believer in Virginia Tech. I'm going to look to Virginia Tech +2 here in this football game. Gerard Hurd has done a very good job at the quarterback position for this team. I believe in the talent level that he has shown me. Gerard Evans, rather, 13 of 20, 282, 3 touchdowns last week in the win against East Carolina. Very good performance from him. 13 touchdowns, 1 interception, 67% completions. Yeah, there is definitely some concern here when you consider the fact that you're talking about a Virginia Tech team that's feasted on Liberty, Tennessee, although the Tennessee game lost by 21, but outgained the Vols by 70 yards. That game that was played in Bristol at the Speedway, really turnovers and just shooting themselves in the foot over and over again hurt the Hokies in that game. And now you look at this situation, revenge game for a 30-27 loss that they suffered at Blacksburg last year in overtime. North Carolina with a touchdown to win that game. And you look at Justin Fuente, a coach that I truly believe in. What he did is he took a Memphis program that was completely in the grave, completely in the ditch, doing nothing for years and turned that team into a great program once again, into a contender, into a team that was nationally relevant again. And Virginia Tech also entering this game off a bye week. Justin Fuente, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread last 2 years at Memphis, off a bye week with extra time to prepare. He's a coach that I trust to prepare a game plan, to get his team ready with that extra time to prepare. And they shattered the point spread in all three of those games. We're talking about combined point spread wins. You're looking over 40 points in those three games, which they won and covered off the bye when Fuente was at Memphis. So I think Virginia Tech in the superior spot. You have North Carolina, a very fortunate, well played, but fortunate win against Florida State. They came back, got the last-second field goal, 37-35. That goofball kicker doing the the Seminole chop at the end of that game after they won it. And it was a tear down the goalpost kind of win. Larry Fedora can obviously try to coach them up, get their heads screwed on and ready to go. I don't trust them to do that. I think Virginia Tech is a much better team. I like the coach, like him even more with time to prepare. I think the Hokies can win it outright.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the weather, which I think is impending, that's going to only help Virginia Tech here, Ryan, with kind of the better defense. Kind of want to dirty up the water here.
Right.
Yeah.
The defense for UNC does concern me too.
Yeah, and look,
has to.
Yeah, I think their goal is to really just outscore people, and again, I'm not in love with the game. It's not going to be on my card anywhere. But Ian seems to get a pretty good grasp in this game, and I think, like I said, weather's going to be important here in this game. So, as far as
6.1, just 1 second, guys. 6.1 yards per play. North Carolina allowing on defense 5 yards per rush. That's not good. That's not good at all. Pitt hung 36 points and moved the ball up and down the field against this defense just a couple of weeks ago. I've got issues with the Tar Heels defense right now. Issues that would think Virginia Tech should be able to move the ball here, especially on the ground, which is definitely something they're capable of doing.
Well, I'll give you one better. James Madison scored points in this team as well. So you got to point that out as well. Right, Georgia Southern is getting gashed on the ground in this game. However, winning 10-3. Very odd game here. But it's hard to back UNC's defense, and we saw that last week. Next one here. This is a game that I have kind of a decent feel for, I think. May it be on my card? I don't know. Probably not, but kind of an interesting game. TCU laying 28.5 against Kansas, over under 64. Game goes on noon on Saturday. Ryan, TCU off a loss. They were not good at all defensively in that game against Oklahoma, giving up 52 points. Remember last year, Kansas played at TCU? Very close. A 6-point game.
Yep.
Trevon Boykin didn't play in that
Boykin
game.
didn't play,
But you look at the year before, 2014, it was decided by 4 points. For whatever reason, Kansas plays this team tough. Kansas at home here. I think we can agree. I think Kansas is a little bit better than they were in years past. They're actually going with a quarterback change here. Ryan Willis will start. I actually watched him last year. Probably a little bit of a spark, but it is tough to back Kansas defensively. They have major issues. They're actually pretty good offensively, though, at home. And TCU, we know, is going to score points, 43 points a game. Defensively, they're allowing over 400 yards. This Gary Patterson defense, Ryan, is not what we thought it would be. Got a lot of people back. You thought you might see a revived defense here. They have not shown much of anything this year. I'm going to go over here. I think the number's a little low due to the fact of years past of kind of some low-scoring games. But, last year, weather wasn't great. Boykin didn't play. I remember it was a gray kind of raw day, if I can remember correctly. I think this one's kind of high-scoring. I think it's like 41, 31, something like that. I think it's kind of high-scoring. I don't know how you can really feel comfortable in laying 4+ touchdowns with TCU, though, nonetheless. I know Kansas, though, is pretty bad. You saw them last week.
TCU did win by 30 at SMU, so take that.
And not for nothing, guys. I mean, TCU could score 55 in this one. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm going to go over 64. I think it's a pretty decent play. Just going to maybe play it for a unit, but it's not going to be. I don't know. Something tells me to kind of just keep it as a free play. Ian Cameron, I'll start with you. You think over is a decent play here? Any thoughts?
It's certainly possible. I mean, there's no question that TCU's offense alone could get in the 50s in this game, at the very least, maybe even approach 60. I mean, we're talking about a TCU defense or offense rather that put up 46 points in a loss to Oklahoma last week. Kenny Hill, the transfer for A&M, has done a very good job. He's had some games where he started out slow, but the point production still has been there pretty much for this team. 59, 38, 41, 33, 46, and that's despite a first half in that 33-3 game where they beat SMU. They didn't get going until the second half of that game for some strange reason, but once they did, SMU couldn't stop them whatsoever, and we saw Oklahoma's defense, even off a bye week. Can you believe that? I mean, Mike Stoops, what on earth are they paying him for there in Norman? Holy Christ. I mean, the defense was just awful once again against that TCU offense last week. Even with time to prepare, didn't really have any answers whatsoever for Kenny Hill and the Horned Frogs. Luckily, Oklahoma was able to outscore TCU with Baker Mayfield and company on offense, but TCU can probably put whatever points they want to put up to on this sorry Kansas defense. Really, they can. I mean, you look at Kansas the last 3 games, Ohio put a 37 spot on them, and Memphis put up a 43 spot on them, and that's Memphis putting together a new offense, new coordinator, new quarterback, still hung 43 on this Kansas defense. And then, of course, 55 last week for Texas Tech. And you know what's the real bad thing about this Kansas defense, guys? Patrick Mahomes gets injured for Texas Tech last week. And his backup, Nick Shimanek, he just comes in there and acts like he's been the starting quarterback for 3 years straight. Right. I mean, he just comes in there cold off the bench, picks apart this Kansas defense, touchdown pass after touchdown pass, just a complete awful showing once again from the Jayhawks defense. So there's no reason TCU can't score a ton. The question is, what are you going to get from the Kansas offense? David Beatty's going to run up tempo. He's going to be fast-paced as he's always been, but Montel Cozart's not getting the job done. That's why it looks like they're going to make this switch here to Ryan Willis. What you talking about Willis? Well, we'll see if he's talking about playing well this coming weekend. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 58% completions and limited duty. I haven't seen enough to trust him yet, but in terms of the over, I wouldn't be looking to bet it under. I'd be looking at over or pass. And from a side perspective, I don't care if I'm getting 28.5 or 29 with Kansas here at home. I want no part of them here, especially with TCU in an ornery mood off a loss. Yeah,
agreed. Ryan, Kansas, you would hope they could put 20 points on the board here against this sorry TCU defense. Right. Over's got to be the play here, especially with the tempo as well. Both teams want to run up tempo.
Yeah. I really don't have much on this game. I would kind of lean TCU coming off a loss against Kansas, who I'm sure Patterson will make them aware that, look, this is a team that we've kind of struggled with the last couple of years. Let's kind of take it to them. Like Ian touched on, the defense is really piss poor. So for me, I would like the over too. You would think Kansas should be able to score. TCU's defense for the last few years has been really piss poor, and they thought that they would get it turned around this year, but that obviously hasn't been the case. So I would go TCU or the over here. That's kind of where I would.
Yeah, I think the sentiment here, TCU over. It's hard to back Kansas under any circumstance because, like last week, like he said, backup quarterback comes in and
he threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, didn't miss a beat.
Really,
55-19. So I could see a similar game here. Let's, Ryan, jump into our first best bet of the week. Going to be my first best bet. By the way, 3-1, Ryan. Last week you went 2-0. Great job. I went 1-1, which is a common fucking theme anymore. However, at least we're not losing 0-4 every week.
Right.
I'm going to start it out here around 7 o'clock. I'm going to go with Michigan. I'm going to lay the number here, and I'm going to explain why. I know a lot of people are kind of pointing out, it's Michigan's first true road game this year. What do you think about that? First of all, it's a good number, 27.5. This game reminds me a lot of the UConn-Houston game, albeit it is a road game here. But you look at this Rutgers team. 0-4 in their last 3 years as a dog of 21.5 to 31 points. And since 1992, Ryan, in historic mode here, 8-21 as a dog of 21.5 to 31 points. They, on the regular, get blown out, Ryan. Lost last year to Michigan 49-16, and this team, off a 58-0 loss to Ohio State, They only had 116 total yards in that game. Now they're facing a Michigan team who is downright stingy defensively, giving up just 12 points a game. You also look at the fact that Michigan, second in the country in pass yards allowed per game, 135 yards per game. And you know what's crazy with Rutgers, and you kind of feel bad, Janarian Grant, their only playmaker on offense, out for the year. So, it doesn't get easier for Chris Ash and Laviano and this team. This is a bad spot, especially off that loss. They only averaged about 21 points a game with Grant in the lineup. And you look at Michigan. I mean, up until Wisconsin, which, if you look at it, they dominated that game. They just couldn't score when it mattered most. But they pounded opponents. I mean, Colorado, Central Florida, Hawaii. Rutgers is on the Hawaii level. This is a bad team. Defensively, they've been a total mess. And Michigan loves to run the ball. Rutgers can't stop the run. 115th in the country, giving up 227 rush yards per game. It's hard for me to really get excited about Rutgers right now. I know they played decent at home, but Iowa's not a very good football team. I think we can agree with that. I would think Michigan continues to roll here, especially after kind of that near miss last week. I'm going to lay the number with Michigan on the road here and think they continue these blowout wins. This could be as worse as last week for Rutgers, really honest.
Yeah.
Ryan D'Amico, I'll start with you. This is your squad, Michigan. You're a fan.
Yeah, it is.
What are your thoughts on the road aspect here?
Yeah, for being their first road game, they couldn't have asked for a better opponent.
Sure.
Rutgers is.
They've had a great schedule this year, man.
Rutgers is Rutgers, man. They're a very poor team. Like you said, Grant, their best playmaker goes out, and he's out for the year. One thing about Rutgers, not a very good program, but they do produce some pretty good receivers. Mohamed Sanu, Leonte Carew, this kid. So, don't really win a whole lot, but wide receivers seem to come from there pretty well. So, but yeah, I would lean Michigan. Look, the weather kind of concerns me, obviously, but I still think they have plenty of firepower to put up enough points. Whether
you said the weather concerns you. Why?
Just if it's raining. I mean, rain.
Yeah, I don't think the hurricane will be up here.
Anytime I'm involving myself in a game that has rain in it, whether it be steady drizzle or it's a downpour, that just concerns me. Just because weird shit can happen in the rain.
But the hurricane won't be here.
Right, that's not going to be in the heart of the storm. But our area where we're at, we're going to get rain on Saturday. Other areas are going to get rain. Whether it's a drizzle, whether it's going to be a torrential downpour, rain is going to be involved. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But regardless, I think Michigan, you've seen what Michigan is capable of, like you said, which is something I saw right after the game last week. Because as I tend to do, I like to look up the stats from a lot of games, but especially Michigan, I like to look at it. They dominated in yards and yards allowed in every category. They just couldn't make field goals and couldn't punch it in the end zone. Be a different story on Saturday against Rutgers. Rutgers be hard pressed to really score in this ball game. I really truly believe that. I would be hard pressed to give them. They got shut out at Ohio State. It is a home game, and maybe give them 7 to 10 points here. Michigan should definitely be able to put up their share. So I would lean Michigan. Absolutely, they've shown that they can cover. So
I do want to point one thing out as far as if you're concerned about the road aspect. Michigan, Jabril Peppers, Rashawn Gary, Jabril Beatty, the new left tackle, all from New Jersey. They have a big Jersey contingent on this team, as you know, Ryan. You got to expect those guys are going to be pumped
they'll
up.
Be real pumped up.
Primus Catholic, live in the flesh.
Yep.
They're going to be well represented here. A lot of guys from that area will be
point.
here.
Yep.
So I'm going to kind of add that in as well. Ian Cameron, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I'm not going to ask Rutgers to do anything for me except continue to stink. I mean, if I bet this one, it's Michigan or absolutely nothing for me. The one concern I have with Michigan is I was burned a little bit by them last week in that game. Certainly deserved to cover that number. Outgained Wisconsin by 190 yards, went up and down the field, but penalties hurt them a little bit. They had the odd turnover, which didn't help. Missed field goals. It was a bad day last week for their kicker, Kenny Allen, who just did not play very well from a kicking standpoint. The left tackle injury to Grant Newsom does concern me, season-ending knee injury. Now, Jawan Bushell-Beatty, as you mentioned, from that area there, New Jersey, that should have him pumped up. There's no question about that, but there still could be a little bit of a growing period. And when you talk about who can stop the run, who can run the football effectively. Michigan running the ball nearly 5 yards per carry. Rutgers giving up 5.3 yards per carry. That's not a very good matchup whatsoever. It could be a domination in the trenches for Michigan here in this particular game. They do have a bye week next week. I just hope they have their eyes on the prize here. They aren't looking forward to the week off and resting some key injuries. But if they are, and they are focused for this game, they're certainly capable of winning this game by 4 touchdowns or more. And like I said, when you're talking about the very worst teams in college football, and Rutgers to me is one of those teams in that category, I don't look to make a case for them. I don't look to make money with them, and Rutgers is one of those teams.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you are, it's a bet against, obviously. Another good point, if Rutgers is down 38-0, I mean, do they have the ability to score on this defense?
So.
I don't see it.
Michigan likes to keep their foot on the gas, too, which is something that they've done. If you look at all of their games so far, which have been blowouts, they tend to keep their foot on the gas, don't let up. Jim Harbaugh, too, he'll have this team focused. I can't imagine they'll come into this lethargic.
Well, you know what? You talk about backdoor potential. I mean, 58-0 loss last week to Ohio State on the road, guys. Rutgers quarterbacks last week, how about 3 of 16 passing? Yeah. 3 of 16 passing, 33 yards. Yeah, that back door is going to stay shut. I'm pretty confident.
Interesting situation last week, too. Everyone saw the Jordan Lewis interception on 4th down. If he doesn't intercept that ball, if the ball just goes incomplete, Michigan takes over at about the 7-yard line and possibly punches it in, goes up 14 points, and all Michigan backers cover. So it's interesting how things play out there if Jordan Lewis doesn't intercept that pass. So.
Yeah, but as far as this one, I will have a play on something in this game. Not going to divulge what it is, but I do really like Michigan on the side here. Next one here, let's move on. So that'll be my first best bet right of the week, Michigan minus 27.5. Let's move to a game that's going to be my other best bet. We'll kind of save the best for last, Ryan, and then we'll get yours as well. Yep, Oppo, I'll get into those here in a little bit. For sure as well. Ones that we didn't kind of get early. I'm gonna go with the total here, Ryan. I love totals. I'm a totals guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Washington and Oregon over the posted total of 69. Great number.
69.
Great number of 69. I'm interested to hear your guys' opinion on this game because I think there's a lot going on in this one. You look at Oregon, a team that a total dumpster fire right now, Ryan, defensively for sure. Helfrich looking where's Helfrich going here?
Well, he's going to be fired here shortly.
Nowhere fast. Yeah. This defense is terrible. Last 3 games, they're giving up 558 yards per game. And over the last 2, 92 yards. Or 92 points in those 2 games. This team has really struggled on the defensive end. Now they're facing a Washington team who scored 35 or more in every game this year. They're coming in humming off of a downright destruction of the Stanford Cardinal. Stanford was never in that game. We had Washington in that game, Ryan.
Yep.
They were never in that game. The thing is here, though, Oregon's won 10 of 13 against Washington. Obviously, much better teams. I look to Washington and say maybe it's time changing of the guard, if you will. Nice kick. You would agree with that, Ryan? Maybe changing the guard time. Pac-12, this is the best team right now, Washington. They're ready to take the reins here and go into Oregon and get a big win. The thing for me is, though, I want to play devil's advocate for 1 second. How good is Washington truly? They beat Stanford, who, let's be honest, had a lot of injuries. I mean, really, they were at home. Biggest game ever in that area. They also beat Arizona, who's very much limping right now. Portland State, Idaho, and Rutgers, who we just talked about. I do kind of think this is kind of a tough task for Washington. I know Oregon's bad, but offensively they're still very good. They're going to be the best offense Washington has faced thus far. And I've noticed their defense has struggled a little bit against mobile quarterbacks. Dakota Prukop is the best mobile quarterback they're going to face. I think Oregon's going to be able to score some points. I don't think they're going to be held to 13 points here. I think they're going to get into the 20s. I could see them scoring 28 in this game. I really do. I think Washington's going to kind of just want to maybe try to force some turnovers. You know they love to do that. they're going to be able to score. I can see Washington scoring in the 50s here. I think this is like a 52-27 type of game. I really do. I would lean Washington for obvious reasons. I can't back Oregon right now. They're just not a team I'm interested in. My advice to you, maybe look Washington team total over as well. Browning, second in the country in pass efficiency. Kid's been good. I'm going to go over here, though. I think there's a lot of points scored in this game. Most of them are going to be by Washington. Ian Cameron, any thoughts on this Pac-12 showdown?
Well, let me answer your first question, Jeff. I believe in Washington. I truly do. Chris Peterson is entrenched now in this program. He's got the guys, he's got the players now that he wants in this program to run his system, to get things done. And to me, that matters. This is year 3 now for him as head coach of this program. He's got his offense, he's got his defense lined up. This team is poised to make noise. Now, that was a very good win last week against Stanford, 44-6 at home, dominating them, outgained them by 211 yards. That was just completely shut down Christian McCaffrey, completely shut down Ryan Burns. They shut him down. They made Stanford one-dimensional, and obviously Ryan Burns' first road start in hostile territory, he just really wasn't up to the task, and there was really no downfield passing game whatsoever for Washington to be worried about. I have no interest in stepping in front of Washington right now. That being said, this price just ain't right. I mean, now you're talking about a team that's 8-9-point favorite on the road for a team that has had consistent struggles with Oregon. We're talking about Oregon being 5-0 straight up and against the spread against Washington since 2011. I know Oregon's down. There's no doubt they're not as good as they've been in years past, or certainly as good as they were at any point in the Chip Kelly era when Marcus Mariota was there, or when some other great Oregon teams were present at that back in those days. But it's still a situation where the price has been, it's justified now that win last week against Stanford has jacked up the power rating big time on this Washington Huskies team. I'm not making a case for Oregon. This is a team that's falling apart before our eyes. They melted down on the road at Nebraska. That was the beginning of it. They lose at home to Colorado with their backup quarterback. Remember, Sefo Lufau did not play in that game when they lose 41-38. Last week against Washington State, completely outclassed, completely shredded, completely torn apart on the defensive side of the football by Luke Falk and that Mike Leach-led air raid passing attack. I'm not asking for this Oregon defense to get stops against Washington's offense led by Jake Browning, who's got 17 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He's been magnificent, 70% completion rate. This team can run the football as well. They've got a very solid running game led by Myles Gaskin. So this is a balanced offense, one that I'm not convinced Oregon can stop. That being said, again, Washington now is being priced like a contender in the Pac-12 and maybe even a contender on the national stage. The bargains that maybe you had to back the Huskies last week at home against Stanford and before that, I'm not convinced those bargains are present here in this game.
Yeah, I could see a situation where Oregon's desperate. I mean, they're at home. They can still score. We know that. It's just really difficult to back them on a defensive end.
Yeah.
I think the best play is just hold your nose, bet over. I think both these teams will
slightly
get
into the over for me as well. Look, I can't. I know 9 is. It's a decent amount of points too for a road team delay. But look, I'll be honest. I can't back a team that's giving up 36 points per game. That's just not in me. I cannot do that. If I had to lean aside, I would lean Washington. I agree with Ian. I think Washington's actually 100% for real. This team has a lot of playmakers all over the field, on offense and on defense. It will be interesting, too, going forward now that we are getting into the heart of conference play to see how things truly pan out for Washington because, look, they have everything in front of them right now. They're high up there in the rankings. If they just take care of business, they can be one of the teams to get into the college football playoffs. So, Oregon, they've just kind of lost the swagger. Ever since Kelly left, man, they really don't have that swagger anymore. And defensively, they've just, I mentioned last week, in one of Chip Kelly's last years, the year they went to the championship game, they were averaging, only giving up about 19 points per game on defense. Now, like I said, they're giving up 36. I mean, what a just awful drop-off. So, look, like I said, I'm not going to back a team like that. I would take Washington. And I like the over as well, Jeff.
And you know what, guys? Like, why not Washington being a major player on the national stage? I'm not just talking about the Pac-12 anymore, but being a college football playoff contender, if not this year, still potentially this year, but for years to come. I mean, look what Chris Peterson did at Boise State. He took a program from absolutely nothing, built it from the ground up, made them a contender, made them one of those, those mid-major type of programs that was a big-time force on the national stage. And with all due respect to Brian Harsin, the last couple of years, it's still not been quite that same Boise State football program since Chris Peterson left there. Chris Peterson built it up. They came at Boise State. He's building it up at Washington. And look, lo and behold, they're coming.
They definitely are. And we'll see. I mean, this is still going to be a big win if they can go in there and win. And, you just got to keep winning.
They haven't beat Oregon in a while, so this is a big game for them. They'll definitely be up for it.
Sure, agreed. They won. Oregon's won 10 of 13 against Washington. So maybe time to move and change the guard here in the Pac-12. Ryan, a couple other ones here. I know your play of the days or your best bets of the week we'll get involved with here. First one you're looking at is... let's go down to a good one down in the Florida area. This one may be affected by Hurricane Matthew. I think it actually will be. Whether they play it or not is anyone's guess. But we're going to pretend they do, and the weather's going to be just fine. Miami laying 3 against Florida State. Over-under is 64.5. Ryan, I'm going to let you have your play, your info here. Get it out to everyone. I do want to mention my point after yours. Go ahead, Ryan. What do you think here in this game?
Yeah, look, I like Florida State going to Miami here. Florida State 3-2. Miami is 4-0. This game kicks off at 8:00. Miami -3 here. I like Miami here. I do. I know a lot of people kind of think Florida State bounces back after kind of getting embarrassed at home against UNC. But look, I mentioned a couple weeks ago. You talked about surprise teams that you think could kind of make a deep run. I think Miami's possibly that team. After this game, the rest of their schedule isn't very difficult. The best team they'll play after this, I believe, is UNC. Get past this game, who knows what can happen. And look, two things that I look at in this game. Look, I know people say, look, Miami hasn't played anybody yet. But look, this still, in my opinion, is a very talented team. It's finally a good coach team under Mark Richt. Under Al Golden, this team was just a mess. But the two things that stand out to me. One, Miami has better quarterback play. Brad Kaya going to be a first-round pick next year, maybe early second, depending on how things unfold. Obviously, he's going to be high up there on the big board as far as quarterbacks go. And defensively, I think they have the edge. Obviously, Florida State defensively has just been terrible all year. I mean, really, let's remember, week 1, this team could have 3 losses if they don't come back against Ole Miss. So, obviously, they're a little bit more battle-tested, but nonetheless, defensively, this team is just a mess. They're allowing 35 points per game, 44 points per game on the road. As a road dog of 3 points or less, they're 1-5 ATS in the last 6 is Florida State. And this is the biggest game for Miami down there at the U in quite some time. This has been a team kind of on the just trying to get things back going into the right direction. So this is going to be a huge, huge game for them. Last number I'll give you guys as a home favorite of 3 points or less. Miami has covered 7 of their last 8. I like the Hurricanes. Ironically enough, during a hurricane.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good point, Ryan. But I mean, who has Miami played? I mean, it's a big question.
I hear you.
I mean,
they play who's on their schedule.
Right, which we've made clear it's not anything. Florida State, though, has challenged
Maybe
himself.
State, who everyone was backed in that game and thought, so.
But we also go to Florida State, who's in the same conference. Ole Miss, North Carolina, South Florida, who's pretty good, and Louisville, who.
But have they looked impressive? Florida State at all?
Well, I thought, obviously they rolled South Florida. Should have beat North Carolina, and Ole Miss they obviously won. But no, they did not look good against Louisville. And defensively in every game, they've not looked good either. This is probably a statement game, though, for Miami. Actually, we know it is. This is a big game for bragging rights in that state. But, again, we have to obviously continue to throw in the weather aspect. Dalvin Cook, best player on the field. You have to feed him. And he's been the one bright spot for them this year. I mean, he's really been good. But Francois has made mistakes. And Miami's lost, 6 straight against Florida State. So, we saw in the other one with Washington, they're sick of losing. It's time to change the guard in this state. So, we'll go, Ryan, with, I think you have the right pick. It does kind of remind me, I know we talked about it, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that Washington-Stanford game for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It seems like kind of, maybe you want to side with the dog here, but Miami's just a better all-around
learn a lot
team.
about Miami, whether it maybe takes another year or so to kind of, get things to where they want to be, or maybe if this is the time where they can, bring the U back. So we'll learn a lot.
Give it up 11 points a game. Pretty impressive so far. Ian Cameron, any thoughts on this game?
I lean Miami ever so slightly, but the thing is, Florida State's pedigree in this particular matchup has been an issue in recent years for Miami. But I will say this, and people have certainly, when I'm surprised, I always display my surprise in a certain fashion when I do the SBR videos, and I'm going to bring it out here. I am shocked how bad the Florida State defense has been this season. I mean, I know they only had 6 returning starters coming into the campaign, but boy, I mean, to see them just get shredded the way they've been. I mean, in Louisville, 63, even South Florida, 35 points, and last week, 37 points to UNC, allowing 538 total yards of offense, 405 yards through the air by Mitch Trubisky last week is what concerns me, because you've got a very good quarterback here for Miami, and Brad Kaya, who's now third year, who's completely comfortable running the Hurricane offense. And let's give Mark Richt credit. He's going to be a guy that is still going to be looked at as, can you win the big game with Miami, which is something he was criticized of not being able to do with Georgia. But he has done a very good job in a short period of time having this team ready to go week in and week out. Miami's 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread. And when you see a team, that is this poorly power rated from the beginning and just cashing tickets week after week after week, I don't like stepping in front of them until I see a sign that they can't cover a number finally. Same thing with Louisville. Prior to last week, I was reluctant to go against them because they were taking money every week, they were cashing tickets every week, and the betting markets had just a completely dead wrong opinion of Louisville right from the onset. That's sort of what we've seen here with this Miami team. I mean, you look at the 4 games they've played so far, they've crushed the point spread in all of them. Look at the last 2 against App State, 4.5-point favorite. They win 45-10, 7.5-point favorite at Georgia Tech. They win 35-21. So it's a Miami team that has clearly been undervalued from the beginning. Betting markets haven't caught up yet. And because they still haven't caught up, I can only play Miami in this one. But this is a step up in class that I'm still not completely sold they're quite ready for. So I'll lean Miami, but that's just going to stay in the lean category for me.
Ryan, I definitely see, though, why you like this game. Florida State kind of going one way, Miami going another.
And I think Miami, you want to talk about talent on Florida State, this and that, bullshit. The proof's in the pudding. What I'm seeing on the field isn't good enough. And what the line is telling me that Vegas thinks these 2 teams are even. Miami's getting 3 points because they're at home. I don't see that. So I'll gladly take that, 3 points, and bet on Miami.
Yeah, I hear you, Ryan. The only thing I would say is I'm just not really, with all the games in the card, I don't want to really bet on a team that has to I'm waiting for Miami to show me something. Then I might be interested. But Florida State, again, you have a very desperate team here who look.
Desperate for what, though? Their season's done.
Yeah, but
they can't win anything.
Florida State is still.
That's a concern. I agree with Ryan here.
But they're still very.
This is already for the Florida State team. A national championship aspiration was there for the team, I think, in the season, and I'm just concerned where the response. They quit against Louisville, to be honest with you, and that's a real concerning sign moving forward with this team. I did not like the way they responded when they were down big against Louisville, and didn't like the way, obviously, they closed the game last week. So the mentality of this team is something I question. Yeah,
look, I don't think they're going to win anything either. I'm just saying, I think they're very talented. So at the end of the day, they have a great player in Cook, and I don't know. We'll see. But Ian Cameron, I want to thank you for coming on. As always, very good stuff. Very thorough, great breakdowns. I urge everyone out there, go over to SBRforum.com, take a listen to Ian's videos. Always does a great job breaking down games and breaks down all the Major League Baseball going on as well. He's over at sportsmemo.com. A lot of good guys over there. I know Teddy Covers is over there, Ryan. A lot of good stuff going on at sportsmemo.com. Ian Cameron, we will talk to you later in the season as we grind towards all the different sports and the winter months. Have a great weekend and good luck, buddy.
Thanks, Ian.
All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the games and good luck to you and to all of our listening audience.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you. As always, Ian Cameron, great stuff. Ryan, he came on a lot with when you were during baseball when you were at work and stuff late. He had some great stuff. Always very thorough guy. So make sure you go over and check him out as always. Many of the listeners know about Ian. Yeah, Miami and Florida State will be interesting. I got to be honest, I don't think they get that game in. I really don't. Miami is kind of in the crosshairs of
it'll be
that,
interesting. It'll be interesting to see how
we'll
that
see.
all plays out.
You might see some games on Sunday.
Maybe.
You never know.
Maybe.
What will you watch? Florida State, Miami, or NFL?
And I'll be watching NFL. The Eagles play at 1 o'clock, so
okay.
I'll be watching that.
Okay. Let's say it was at 4 o'clock.
Oh. If the weather's good, I might watch Miami, Florida State.
Yeah, sure. All right, Ryan. A couple others here. We'll get into your other best bet, and we'll get into a couple other listener games. Interesting game, your other game, right? Washington State and Stanford. Washington State getting 7.5 over under. I don't have. I think I know where you're going in this game. I'm not going to divulge where I am. What do you got here, Ryan?
Yeah, I lean Washington State in this ball game. You know, they're getting 7 points.
Oh, 7? Okay, sorry.
That's the line I have. The line I wrote down. They're getting 7. So, I'm just not sure why Stanford should be laying 7 points. Look, I think Stanford is one of the more, and I'll be honest, I kind of alluded to this last week. I think they're one of the more overrated teams in the country, to be honest with you. I mean, it was pretty evident last week. Granted, some injury concerns there, but I mean, if you're the what were they ranked at the time? 7th. If you're the 7th best team in the country, you should be able to overcome those injuries and not get blasted 44-6. So, just from what I'm seeing too from their offense, their quarterback play has been bad. I mean, really, just really poor. It's McCaffrey or bust. I think Washington State and Leach will know that. Try to hem McCaffrey in and make the quarterback beat him. I talked about the cornerback injuries for Stanford. They're both going to be out, and that does not bode well facing a team in Washington State that does like to throw the ball so much. I think that's just a fantastic matchup there.
Leach will attack those backups
absolutely,
early and often.
For sure. And look, they've played well ever since their opening loss to Eastern Washington. And if you remember, in this matchup last year, Washington State had a chance to knock off Stanford, missed the field goal as time expired, and they lost.
I gave them out on SBRform.com, I remember. Same number, Ryan. Same exact number. 7.5.
Yep.
I'm going to come out and say, I agree with you 100%. I think Washington State, another big move, Ryan. Daniel Marks, the fullback, not going to play either for McCaffrey.
He was out last week, too.
Right, and McCaffrey didn't do shit.
Yep.
Plus, why wouldn't I be, Simon? I'm pretty sure Simon's a shithead. I'm pretty sure. As I always am. And I'm sure you're going to bring up the fact that I'm 2 games under 500. So, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you listening. I agree with you, Ryan, wholeheartedly. I think this is a good play. I think with Leach, he's smart enough to attack those backups.
Yep.
I think Washington wins.
And it's encouraging, too, because Washington State had success. Now, granted, it was against Oregon, but they did have success running the ball a lot last week. Had a lot of success running the ball. So if they can kind of get the running game going, if they can carry that over from last week and get some help there from the running backs and such, that makes them even more dangerous. So, grabbing a touchdown here, I see some guys out there getting 7.5. Obviously, look, when I write my games down, I go to scoresandodds.com and I write down the line that's on there. That's just what I do. Look, if it was me personally betting this game right now, I would obviously buy up to 7.5.
Well, obviously,
but I'm going to give 7 just for the fact that look, I'm being honest, I'm being true, and that's what the number that I have was. So I'll take the 7, but I clearly think this is a game that Washington State can win. So
I would look to Ryan. Obviously, when you're betting, whether you're offshore or whatever, most people are offshore. Compare books, get different books. Go to SBRodds.com, find the best line because it's all about putting your money in certain places. Find the best lines. Simon, if you're true, why don't you get in touch with me on the email and we'll talk. A lot of guys want to talk or whatever. You can contact me, man, and we'll chat a little bit more about it. My email is on on my website. But yeah, you want to definitely, if you can get 7.5, why not get a full touchdown for sure. I agree with you, Ryan. I think Washington State's a very good play. So, but again, watch the injury reports because I've noticed they will not play or whatever. It turns into, okay, they're warming up and they look okay, and then, they play. Yeah. So, for me, I would definitely watch the injury report. But David Shaw, to me, looks like a guy that would tell the truth. So
seems like an honest guy, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, stay up with it, for sure.
Sure. Someone asked about Toledo, Eastern Michigan. Toledo, Ryan, I like. I think they're the one true possible competition to Western in the MAC. Western Michigan continues to dominate.
They're so good.
They're really good. And Toledo's laying 17 on the road against Eastern Michigan off of the Wild game last week against BYU. Ryan, if I told you Eastern Michigan would be 4-1, what would you say to me?
Yeah, I would.
But again, I mean, you played.
What if I told you they were 4-1 and their quarterback has 7 touchdowns to 9 interceptions?
Right,
and they'd still be 4-1.
And they played this great quartet: Mississippi Valley, Charlotte, Wyoming, and Bowling Green. So not exactly murderers row there. No. Their one step-up game, they lost 61-21 to Missouri. Look, Toledo's good. I like Logan Woodside. I like their defense. I'm a big fan of this Toledo team. Like I said, I think they're the main competition. I think Eastern Michigan will come back to earth here and get pounded in this game. Eastern Michigan still, at the end of the day, is a product of a bad schedule. They should get crushed.
Yeah, I would lean Toledo as well. One thing that jumps out to me, Jeff, Eastern Michigan, you talked about the teams they played, only scored 28 points against Bowling Green. Bowling Green, who seems to give up 50-plus points every week, and this is a team that can only score 28 points on them. That concerns me. I would lean Toledo for sure. And this is a Toledo team that's putting up almost 600 yards of total offense. I don't care who you are. That's impressive. Against an Eastern Michigan team who, against that quartet, is giving up 400 yards per game. Toledo, if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they should have a field day. Yeah, and, at the end of the day, I think we see Eastern Michigan kind of get exposed a little bit in this game. I just don't see them hanging here. Let's kind of keep going around. A couple others here. Just kind of interesting matchups. You got Iowa and Minnesota. Interesting game here. See a lot of people jumping on the Minnesota bandwagon here, kind of writing Iowa off. Minnesota. Go ahead. I was going to say, this is the patented spot where everyone, like you said, jumps on Minnesota. Iowa goes in there and wins.
Right.
And this is and covers. This is definitely one of those patented
At the end of the day, I still have a hard time backing Tracy Claeys, man. I mean, he just doesn't seem like a coach to me. I feel like I'm not sure how he got that job, to be honest.
Right.
And you saw Minnesota this week piss a game away at Penn State. They should have won.
Very much so, yeah.
I'm not what's Minnesota's quarterback name?
Mitch
Leitner, who's been there for about 10 years. Yep. Shannon Brooks has been injured, their running back, who is pretty talented, but he's been injured. Iowa's gotten embarrassed the last couple weeks. Again, last week they lose to Northwestern. By the way, Northwestern lost to Illinois State, Ryan, and going and beat Iowa. I don't know. A lot of people writing Iowa off. I have a feeling they win this game. Minnesota's not as bad.
I lean Iowa, too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will be on Minnesota just for how down Iowa's been. And rightfully so. Iowa just isn't a very good football team this year. Really just, kind of proved that last year was kind of a fluke. So, but I would lean. I would lean the Hawkeyes here.
Yeah, it's definitely Iowa or nothing for me in this one. Army Duke. Interesting one here, Ryan. Army off a bye off that bad loss against Buffalo. Now they're going to go on the road, and Duke, who beats Notre Dame, and then they come back and just lay an egg last week. Don't really know what to think with Duke right now. They're kind of a weird team. I think we're going to look to the negativity with them. They're not very good. I think the Notre Dame thing was just a wild game.
I think that's just more in the favor of how bad Notre Dame's defense is. Right?
Yeah, I like Army. I've made that clear. I'm a big fan of this Army team. What happened at Buffalo, I'm not really sure. I think kind of just the emotional, you kind of think took the best of them. They had the funeral that week and just kind of wasn't a good spot for them. Rain obviously will favor Army. Good point by Donnie, right side. I was actually leaning Army anyway. I'm not sure why they're a dog here.
That's the way I would lean as well.
But Duke, Remember Duke a couple years ago, huge moneymaker. What they were
Yep.
with Anthony Boone and Jameson Crowder and
all them guys.
The defense was really good. Jeremy
Yep.
Cash.
Yep.
They're just not that team anymore.
No, they're not.
And they seem to always play close games. I'm good here. Plus, they just lost Devon Edwards, another defensive back for them. They're not very good on the defensive end right now. So I think Army, who's well rested, should come in here and get the job done. Ryan, I got a question for you. What is up with Georgia Southern here? I mean, Arkansas State, a team that is just dreadful against the run. They cannot get anything going. Kind of weird, but they're still winning.
This is a game that I felt that, since the first quarter, I thought was going to be close the entire way because it's just one of those things. Look, we've all been watching sports for a long time. You kind of understand how things are going to fold out once you see certain things. When I saw Arkansas State turn the ball over 3 times in the first quarter, yet only be down 4 points, only down 3. It's just kind of one of them games where it just seems that things are going to play out that way. So.
A lot of steam came in on Arkansas State. Line went from 8 to 6. What happened there, I'm not sure. I think the angle was Arkansas State off a bad loss, off a bye at home.
More than a touchdown, right?
Yeah, against a team that runs the football a ton.
Yep.
And Sharps are looking decent so far.
Yep.
But we got a lot of game to go here. I would probably lean Army just because they've been a moneymaker and they've gotten the job done.
Plus, running the ball heavily in the rain, you think.
And I know a point that I know you're not a big fan of, but Army got crushed last year by Duke. I think they lost like 47-3 or something.
Okay.
I think these kids will remember that from the armed Army West Point. So, Arkansas, Bama, Jimmy wants us to talk about. Jim's a fan of Arkansas. I'm not a big Bielema guy. I'm not a big fan of Arkansas really in general. I know they're getting double digits here in this game.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like they hang with Bama here for some reason. I don't know why. But it seems like these games are always pretty low scoring between these two. I mentioned muddying up the waters. That's what Arkansas wants to do every game.
Yep.
Keep it in the trenches. I think they match up decently with Alabama. I have to look into it a little bit more. I don't have a ton on it. Do you have any thoughts, Ryan, on this one?
I don't have a ton on this game. I would slightly lean to Arkansas. I think Alabama coming up here soon is going to be a team you want to fade here shortly. They're going into a really kind of murderer's row schedule. It starts, obviously, Saturday at Arkansas, at Tennessee, home against A&M, and then at LSU. Those are 4 really tough games, 3 of which are on the road. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bama survives and handles themselves through that. But, I would slightly lean to you're right, Jeff, to Arkansas. This is a game that, they're going to want to slow down. They're going to want to grind out. And Alabama, for whatever reason, other than that first week, don't seem to be a real, home run hitting, big explosive play offense. They've been kind of grinding out drives, and Hurts has been playing well, but I think that favors Arkansas a little bit, but not a game that I'll be on.
Also, a real opponent, finally. I mean, they faced Kent State, Kentucky, just kind of jumped.
Western Kentucky, Kent State, Kentucky,
this is kind of this is a tough game, I think, here for them, and I think Arkansas are they at home here, Arkansas?
It's at Arkansas, yeah.
Yeah, I would look bring me back the dog here. Another interesting game. We'll do 1 or 2 more. This is an interesting game here. Texas Tech visiting Kansas State. Tech getting 7.5, and first glance at Mahomes plays in this game, which I don't know. It's probably 50-50 he plays. Kansas State a very good defensive team, but it's hard to prepare for this offense. It really is. And you look at Kansas State. I mean, who have they exactly beaten this year? Their wins are against Florida Atlantic, Missouri State, and that's it. What's there to be excited about? Then losses against Stanford, who kind of controlled them the whole game, and then West Virginia. I'm not big into their quarterback, Joe Hubert. I'm not a big fan of his at all. Yeah. Texas Tech, though, we know they're not going to play much defense. But for me, I almost want to lean Texas Tech in this game.
One thing I don't like doing is, and I will not just point this out, I'm not involved, not really high on this game, will not get involved in this game, but one thing I don't like doing, I don't like betting against Kansas State in Manhattan at night. It's just one of them games that has a really kind of weird vibe to it that they always seem to play well and show up night games at home. So just something to throw out there.
Plus, look, we know Bill Snyder will have them prepared.
Texas Tech, man, again, just a team that plays absolutely.
But
100%,
Kansas State,
no
not
defense.
a team that scores the football.
But against a defense that's that poor, anyone can really move the ball.
I don't know. It'd be interesting at Mahomes' place. That's kind of my angle here.
I hear you.
But we'll see. Other than that, Ryan.
I know Opos.
Yeah, he wanted Toledo's Eastern Michigan.
Vols Aggies. He wanted to
Okay.
talk about, which is interesting because that's actually a game that I thought about breaking down, and it's kind of a little. I don't want to use the word angle. I don't really like using that word, but just an interesting situation here. A&M's currently favored by a touchdown, right? The line opened up at 5, it went up to 7. I think an interesting play in this game as it gets closer to game time. Texas, try looking at it. It'd be interesting to see what the number is. I didn't get the number, but A&M first half. Okay, Tennessee has all year come out slow. Every game has come out slow, pretty much, and has fallen behind and had to come back in the second half. And miraculously, they're still undefeated at 5-0. A&M, on the other hand, seems to come out and play pretty well early. So it'll be interesting to see if Tennessee flips the script or if they continue to come out flat and lethargic on the road against A&M, who A&M is coming off of a lethargic performance as well last week. So they come back home to Kyle Field at home. Game day, I'll be there. That place will be fired up. I think to get out to a quick start. A&M first half, I think, would be a good play in this game.
No Myles Garrett, but again, plenty of other capable people. Might be a magic year for Tennessee, Ryan. They squirmed their way out of a win against App State.
Yep.
That wild win last week.
I see a lot of people comparing this to the Auburn team a few years ago. That had the Jordan Hare, the miracle Jordan Hare, the long play in the Georgia game. So a lot of people are comparing this.
I could see it. Kind of a dual threat quarterback.
I'm just saying the way they're winning. I'm not talking about teams. I'm just talking about the way they're winning.
Yeah, Jones' jaws been saved several times. Well, not saved, but
he's got to move in the right direction.
It's helped.
But it's definitely helped.
He was pretty emotional after that game. That's
right,
pretty unbelievable.
That's a big win. That's a pretty miraculous win. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll, for the life of me, wonder how that happens on a regular. How that happens every year. How you don't just knock the ball down.
It shouldn't happen, but like you said, it does. And it's funny they had one of their tallest players, Georgia did, on the field, and was nowhere near the ball. Just kind of just stood there and just didn't even follow the ball coming down. It seemed like he just stood there and was like, "Well, if the ball comes to me, I'll make a play on it." It's like
that's why you're out there.
These guys are just.
You got to go find the ball and knock.
It's like attack the ball.
Yeah,
that's what. And look, maybe the defensive back coaches and the secondary coaches say it, and the kids just don't execute it. But it's like attack the ball. It's like so many of these kids are waiting for the ball to come down. Jump up, get the ball at its highest point, and knock it down.
Yeah, you continue to see it in college football. These mental mistakes that really cost him. I mean, last week with Louisville. I mean, stuff like that, and you even see it in the NFL. I mean, remember Terrence Williams not running out of bounds and that.
Yep.
I mean, just little stupid things that just affect the whole game.
Very much so. Yeah.
My brother Chris is in Tampa. Wants you to discuss OU Texas. I'm actually going to pass in that game. I'm looking at having that as a member play, so I'm going to actually avoid it. Do you have any thoughts, Ryan, on OU Texas?
Look, I don't like Texas really. I'm just really not high on them. Obviously, defensively, they're really piss poor. But Oklahoma, for that matter, isn't anything special either. So it is 10 points. If you remember, Texas did beat Oklahoma last year, so there is kind of that. And this is a rivalry, a huge rivalry, a Red River rivalry. So Oklahoma will not have forgotten that. Their season's done, although they can still win the Big 12. Not going to get in the college football playoff, but can still win a conference championship, which is important, which is a big deal. I'm sure one of their goals coming into the year. So I have a slight lean to Oklahoma, maybe the over. I mean, I know that is a lot of points, but Oklahoma defensively really hasn't shown much, and especially against the step-up games, Ohio State and TCU. So maybe you look over there, but again, not a game I'm high on. It's funny. A lot of the games people are talking about are just games that just don't do much for me. So. Yeah,
no, I agree. We'll do one more here. Oppo wants to talk about Temple Memphis, which is tomorrow night, Ryan. You have West Kentucky, La Tech. I think you see a lot of points in that game. Western Kentucky, La Tech. That's a big game in Conference USA, by the way.
Yep.
If you don't follow that conference, Marshall has looked pretty lackluster. I know that's your favorite word of yours. They've looked lackluster. But a big one in the AAC, Ryan. Temple visiting Memphis. Memphis getting a lot of respect here, laying 10 points. Over-under is 59. We'll start with Memphis. Riley Ferguson's been very good. They have a lot of good skill players, and he's come in and really played well. They brought a lot back, did lose Paxton Lynch, but he stepped in and really kind of filled the void for that squad. I like what I've seen. But again, other than Ole Miss, they really haven't played anyone, and now they get a defense in Temple who, look, defensively Temple is very good, and they stymied Paxton Lynch last year. I don't know if you remember that game, Ryan. I like Temple defensively. Can Philip Walker just not make mistakes?
No.
Right. I mean,
I'll answer the question there. No, he can't. He's good for at least 1 or 2 a game, and that's worrisome.
yeah, but you look at last week, covered, still got the job done, covered against Charlotte. Again, they're bad opponents.
They're playing some really bad teams,
right.
man.
I feel like this number's a little too high, though. I don't know why. But Temple can get totally humbled here. Matt Rule is not coached well this year. He's not had this team prepared in certain games.
And I don't think their defense, I know you say you don't like that. I don't think their defense obviously isn't as good as it was last year.
Oh, hell no.
And it really, I'll be honest, it really doesn't do a lot for me this year from watching a couple of their games. I agree. I think Temple could really get whitewashed here if they don't fall, if they don't kind of play. If this game doesn't play the way into Temple's hands the way they're going to want it to, which is going to kind of be, let's work the play clock, let's run the ball with Jahad Thomas, let's kind of extend the game a little bit. Because if they get into a shootout and fall behind Memphis, I don't put a lot of.
But the problem is they're not involving him enough, Thomas. You mentioned it last week.
I did.
They do not involve him near enough.
No, they
and
don't.
That's where I have an issue with Matt Rule.
I feel like Matt Rule thinks like Philip Walker's this all-American quarterback that can make all the throws and can go out and win you games. He can't.
I mentioned it last week. I have a. If I had any even close to a team in college football, it would be Temple. I like this team. I've watched it for a long time. Philip Walker, since his freshman year, is the same quarterback. He's not improved. He's the same quarterback. And Matt Rule just, for whatever reason, thinks he's, like you said, a gunslinger is going to go out and throw for 5 touchdowns. It's not what he is. I don't have much. I want Temple to hang. I would like it, but this could be one of those situations where Memphis gets a little revenge and at home gets the job done here. But I don't even know about the total. I really don't. I would maybe say over just because I think both teams would be able to score. I'm not, like you said, in love with Temple's defense, and Memphis is
where I really and I actually had Temple in the game and actually watched a decent amount of the game. They Temple covered, but they just didn't. This is the game where they lost. It was that Penn State game where offensively they couldn't really do much against Penn State's really lackluster defense, and the only reason they covered that game is because they got 2 gift turnovers, both inside the red zone. Penn State's red zone. So that's the only reason they covered that game. And they just didn't look like a good football team that game.
I'm going to say one other thing. I'm going to tell you why Memphis will cover this game. Temple's pass defense has been pretty bad. I mean, and you look at who they played. Army,
right.
Penn State,
right.
Charlotte, SMU.
SMU starting a freshman quarterback last week.
Yeah, Charlotte's a joke.
Charlotte's a joke. McSorley isn't a very good quarterback at Penn State.
And Army doesn't ever throw the ball.
I mean, yeah.
They're not good at passing. Their passing defense is not good. It wasn't that good last year either. They just had a stout front 7.
Yep.
I think Memphis will expose Temple, honestly. I actually may look more into this game. I could see a situation where Memphis wins this one like 38-27. I could see it. I would probably lean Memphis in this game. That's going to be it, Ryan, for us tonight. Any other games you wanted to talk about here?
I don't think we actually.
You're frustrated with this game, I can tell.
Yeah, well, we covered a lot of games tonight, though.
Yeah,
really, a lot of the games we covered. I wanted to talk about the Tennessee game. We squeezed that in there, and we actually touched on a fair amount of games, a lot of listener games that we got to. I think it's interesting. I think Notre Dame not getting a lot of love by the Lions makers, rightfully so. 2-3 with that defense. They're now an underdog. That's an interesting line. I feel like Notre Dame can really kind of hang some points up there. So. And then Maryland kind of being a favorite too, going to Happy Valley, which regardless of what Penn State's like, that's a tough place to go and play, over 100,000 inside Happy Valley. That's a tough place, so you'll kind of be interesting to see what Maryland does there. Other than that, man, really nothing else really jumping out at me that we kind of didn't already talk about, or that I just don't want to talk about for client play purposes and that kind of stuff with you and everything else.
Right, I want to point one thing out. Howard, Florida International, Central Florida, and Purdue.
Yes.
The 4 teams Maryland has beat this
Correct.
year. Now they play Penn State, Minnesota, Michigan State, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Rutgers. It's going to get a lot difficult,
Yes.
more difficult, and we'll see how good a coach D.J. Durkin really is.
Yeah.
Everyone have a great night. Let's wrap it up here, Ryan, and just mention our best bets once again. Your 2 best bets are Miami -3 and Washington State +7. Mine are going to be Michigan -27.5 and over 69. Washington and Oregon. Everyone have a great night. Enjoy Week 6 in college football. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Jeff Nadu, JFFNADU. You can reach Ryan at DIA18, DIA18. Ryan, don't get swept up in this hurricane. Don't let the rain wash it out.
We'll be good. Yeah, well, we're going to get some rain around here Saturday. It looks like that just gives me a good reason
Quick
to kind of
story.
stay in.
Quick story about rain. You never really kind of realize how freaky water is until I remember this past summer. I mentioned to you I was kind of stuck in a little bit of a flood down at the shore, a big downpour, and I actually had to wait it out. Water's pretty freaky, man. Especially when it starts getting real high, and
it's very powerful.
You got the ocean near you, you got the bay near you.
Very powerful stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it's freaky.
So if you're going to be affected by it this weekend, guys, be safe and
I know
and
Best
take
Gambler.
care.
He's down in North Carolina,
Right.
so hopefully, if you're in the way, another thing, heed what local government tells you. Don't try to be that dumbass that stays and your
Or
roof
don't
gets
be
taken off.
outside.
Right.
Just
I get a kick out of these people in hurricanes. They're like out jet skiing and stuff. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like, get to your fucking house and go the fuck away.
And as we saw, and someone mentioned on the chat box too, last thing I'll say, the UCF Tulane game is canceled because of,
I can't believe it.
If you saw some of the pictures that we saw on ESPN, pretty.
Those were in
pretty-
Haiti, though, by the way.
Oh, was that? Oh,
yeah, that wasn't actually Florida.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, holy shit, it's starting early.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight knowing that Tulane and Central Florida is canceled.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to miss that one.
Actually, I like Central Florida. That game, Tulane, I don't know how they're going to keep up.
Right.
But, everyone have a great night. We do appreciate it. Catch us on Sunday. This Sunday we will break down Week 5 in the NFL. The Eagles are back, Ryan. You got Tom Brady returning from suspension against the lowly Cleveland Browns. We'll see what we're looking at in Week 5 in college football. That show will go live 11 a.m. Sunday. So tune into that. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you next time for Week 7 in college football. Everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.